What is going on, everybody? Hope you're all having a good Tuesday. Hope your Tuesday was better than my Monday night. Not a great night. Big night, though. I got the Millionaire Maker tonight. Only 600 and some odd players. Now it's a hugely crazy pay structure towards the top. But hey, if you end up in first, I don't think you can feel bad about it. So I'm going to go for it, and we'll see what we get. But wanted to mention, it's obviously been an incredible year for TrueDFS so far. I obviously I won the Millionaire Maker and a couple other big tournaments. Sheets has won basically everything, except for the live final. Unfortunately, he didn't pull that one out, but he did do an incredible job to get there, and also won basically everything on the 3 weeks previous. We got a lot of great stuff going on, but we did partner with Paydirt DFS. James McCool and the gang over there, they do an incredible job, incredible tools on the site. Would love for you guys to come check them out. We also are obviously partnered with SaberSim. We're charging, a small amount more than SaberSim. I think that for the ultimate package, we're charging $320. There's a $297, but we have other packages as well, including Brandon Cruz's NASCAR package. And with the MLB coming up, I really suggest you give us a look. I think we have a really unique set of offerings that's different than everybody else. We have 4 projection sets now with counting Paydirts and Sheets and Goldies and SaberSims as well. We've got obviously all of my content sheets is Goldies, Roadies, Brandon Cruz for NASCAR. We've got Adam Perry doing NHL and MLB for us, really sharp dude. Anyway, I think we have a great shot. And one thing that we can promise that's maybe a little bit different than other sets is we really do answer and directly communicate with every one of our members. And also we're going to be offering some coaching sessions throughout the summer as well. So I think it's a great time to get aboard. The prices will never be this low again. Now we will have different options for packages as the season goes on that maybe are more affordable to more very small stakes players. But there's still it's still going to be, you'll be grandfathered in on everything if you get in now. And we're not doing a promo this year because we're going to be raising prices in the next couple of weeks once we get everything sorted out with the site and sort of making it look prettier. Mostly it's design at this point because the information is there, and we would love for you guys to be a part of what we got going over here. One thing to mention about the NBA also for site members, I've been going in there for both right up to lock. Although today I'll be a little bit different because I've got to get out for the Millionaire Maker, but as well as talking through late swaps and whatnot in the premium voice channel in the Discord. And then we'll be doing our shows here as well. So while we're doing them for free, please give us a like, subscribe, all that stuff. And with all that said, I'm going to get into this slate. I have to talk about that stuff because like I've talked about this before, we've never made a penny off of this site. We're building towards the future here, but we really would appreciate if you guys give us at least, if you're not able to join the site, give us at least a like on the videos and stuff so we can keep doing at least some of them for free, even though we are switching to a lot more premium content in general. All right. So look, it's early in the day. We know that projections are going to change. I like to do the shows a little bit later, the days that Sheet's not here, because usually we get a little bit of morning breaking news, from shoot around and stuff. So I'm going to keep an eye on that while I go through the slate. And for all site members, I will post my exact exposures, my core plays, everything later. Obviously, with the NBA, things are very subject to change all the time because we know how the NBA is, especially at this time of year. And with that said, let's get into it. I ran a very basic build, only changing the 2 minimum requirement changes, just the campaign and Scottie Pippen, still going to get 1,000,000% of them. And this is what SaberSim is giving us as of this morning. But obviously, me, I like to tweak my stuff and get the projections where I feel like they're a little bit more accurate. And again, as I always say, trying to give yourself more options later in the day is an incredibly valuable thing to do this time of the year. So in general, I've been trying to bump up the later games as much as possible, just because you're going to have some advantages in late swap to take advantage of that. So with that said, let's get into it. We'll talk about Orlando at Charlotte. Right off the bat, I think that like Anthony Black's a play that's interesting because like he got completely overlooked yesterday, or more overlooked than we would have thought. Had a really nice game, and I'm not saying we should expect 37, but he's put up 29 and 37 in his last 2. He's put up 28 or more in 3 out of his last 4. I think it's reasonable to have his projection bumped up a little bit closer to where it is, maybe somewhere between Goldies and between Goldies and Goldie's got him at 21.5. SaberSim's got him at 23. Maybe 22.5 is a better median. I still think he's in play. not 223.5. Let's just go back to the original for now. I'll probably change it later, but I do think that this is an interesting, okay, why aren't we into it one night? We're into it the next night. But the truth is, he's given us reason to. It's a good matchup against Charlotte. It is a back-to-back. He did play minutes last night. You can see that one of two ways. He is one of the younger guys. They need to win games, and I do think that they will let him go, at least a little bit. Paolo and Franz not getting much love on a back-to-back. Got to at least consider those guys, right? Again, early game, not ideal, but we've seen pretty much every game one of these guys seems to go nuts. It's or at least close enough to nuts. We're coming off the big Wagner game with 54 last night. Maybe it's Paolo's turn to put up a nice 60 spot against Charlotte tonight. It's definitely on my mind. So I have Orlando as my first team that I'm questioning, maybe bumping a couple different directions depending on what we get. And then you have a great matchup for Wendell Carter, who's been a little bit more involved, but it's not like we've seen these monster performances from him. He's had a couple of really nice ones. I think that it's a play that I'm considering. If it was a little lower ownership, I probably would have a little more interest, but that's just sort of where I'm at right now. Big slate, a lot to figure out, obviously. Right now, I'd be getting to nothing from Charlotte. I think that Bridges, I would rank slightly ahead of LaMelo. Both are fine to take stabs at, but they would be just that, stabs. Bad matchup, obviously. And, look, they can still get there, though. Like, LaMelo, when he gets the minutes, can get there. Bridges, we certainly know can get there because he's had some. He might not be as consistent with the production, but some of these games they've been blown out and it's hard, it's tricky. But we saw that stretch he went through where he put a 55 in like 4 games in a row, and I think 2 of them were like 65. I just think there's upside in general for those guys. I don't know that they're going to make it for me on this particular slate. I love Keldon Johnson here. I'm kind of trying to figure out what took so long for us to sort of get onto this play with, and look, it hasn't been every single night, but you tell me his median is what, 24.5? Okay. Well, he's averaging basically in this role since they've really, started leaning on him a little bit more, about 28. And it's against a Detroit team that's playing at one of the fastest paces in the NBA. 4th fastest over their last 10 as of right now, as of their last game. Let's see, maybe they're 5th now. Yeah. 5th because the Bulls got another game in there. I like Keldon Johnson here tonight. That's probably my favorite play from San Antonio. Now, you do worry a little bit about blowing out with Detroit, but I also think that there's this low ownership is, put San Antonio as my next team on my sort of like question mark list. Keldon Johnson especially. I do think that Keldon Johnson is has plenty of upside for this matchup. I don't think I could talk myself into playing Chris Paul. It's tempting with that price in the Millionaire Maker. I might have to. It's been very up and down for him. I seem to get him on the nights where he has 8 or 10 fantasy points, not the 32. But I just think there's other plays that I probably would lean on. I do think that Keldon Johnson is probably my highest level of interest as of right now, followed by Vassell, followed by Castle after him. And I think Vassell and Castle, we've certainly seen some ceiling type games. Maybe this is the environment where we can see Vassell put up another 45 or something like that. And Castle certainly has the upside as well. So interested in both those guys. Spurs are a big team that I'm considering tonight, but I'm not sure where I'm going to end up. So we've got the Asar Thompson, I don't want to say fair bit of chalk. This has been a pretty ugly stretch for him in general. What do we have in minutes wise tonight? 27. That feels really, really high. He's played more than 27 in 1 out of his last 9. Obviously, we have Cade questionable and Hardaway questionable. I actually think Detroit might be favored by more than 10 if these guys were both playing. So I'm kind of confused. I'm kind of conflicted to see what happens. Obviously, it's one of the first games, so we'll know by the time lock comes around. But if Cade Cunningham goes out, definitely more interest in Asar. As of right now, I'm interested a little bit, but not at 25% ownership and assuming 27 minutes. That just feels very ambitious to me. It could be a sneaky spot for Isaiah Stewart, but I don't think that I don't know if I have it to have it. Well, I might, and it's also a good spot for Duren. So one of those two certainly interesting. This game is the one I want to revisit later when I go live at 6. just because I do have some interest there. Dallas side of things. All right, so we have, I mean, even with all these guys out, it feels weird that nothing shows up. I think that PJ Washington as a low-owned play is worth considering. Kessler Edwards, who sat out last night's game, if he starts tonight, I think is kind of interesting. I think Kai Jones, kind of interesting. I think the projections are a little bit low, but I'm going to have to revisit this one also a little bit later because I'd like to do something in a spot with a team down so many players, but they were used to them with 8 or 9 guys. They've at least got enough. I think they have at least 11 tonight or 10 tonight as of right now. So unless anybody else comes, if anybody else is out, I think we're going to have to do something there, but still trying to figure out what that is exactly with Dallas. They've also been priced up because of the lack of players. All right, so we now have the Knicks with obviously no Brunson, McBride, and that's going to make Campaign one of the chalk plays on the slate. Could you make a get crazy for the lottery Landry Shamet argument? I don't think I would do it, but I'm just throwing it out there. I don't really know who else is going to run the point for them, so I think they kind of need him. Josh Hart, you could argue, kind of semi-runs point a lot of the time. But I think this is a spot not just for him, but you have a good matchup against Dallas. I think Cat's very interesting. I think, Payne, Cat are probably my 2 favorites. But I want to throw out a little – this could be one of those weird Josh Hart triple-double days. So Payne is obviously a core guy as of right now, but Hart and Towns are 2 that I'm definitely considering pretty heavily. And I'm thinking also in terms of millionaire maker lineup, so – that's partly why I'm taking a little more time going through the games today than I normally do. Golden State and Miami. Unless Steph is out, it's going to be hard for me to talk myself into much here. I think Steph likely plays and probably going to be off this game. Not a great matchup, but again, I wouldn't cross anybody off. I'm not going to go out of my way to get to anybody either. Maybe a large field, you could, the Steph idea is always worth taking a stab at. Lottery type of stuff, I think, would be the way I would use him. Wiggins against his former team. We're seeing it more and more. These guys are getting projected so crazy. Wiggins did just put up 61 the other night with one of like the best, most efficient games. I have a hard time not considering Wiggins strongly today. And it's kind of annoying to me because he's not a guy who I generally want to go nuts with, but the stars are aligned, I think, for him to have a big game tonight. So I am definitely open to the Andrew Wiggins. Khalil Ware and Bam are showing up as pretty decent plays. I think I prefer Bam, slightly, different positions, different prices. Ware we know has a ceiling. This might be a good matchup for him to actually get there. So definitely a little bit of interest on the Miami side where I don't have any on the Golden State side. Going to have to revisit that one later. I'm just going to write Bam and Ware as 2 guys who I'm considering. Again, not taking shots, but gambling on or whatever you want to call it. All right, Houston. The games have been a little bit faster lately for Houston, not quite as slow as we saw them earlier in the year. Trae Young, I still just don't know if there's anything I feel great about. I always think Dyson Daniels is projected too low, but I don't think there's anything I'm going to make as a priority from the Atlanta side of things as of right now. Moving over to Houston, definitely think Şengün is heavily in play. It's obviously a good matchup. Coming off of 60, maybe the projection's a little too high probably from SaberSim. I'm gonna bump this down. It doesn't feel right to have him at 48 as a median. That seems a little bit aggressive. Maybe more like 45, 46 is probably where it should be. I'm curious to see what that does for his ownership. We saw Fred VanVleet have a big game the other night, which was nice to see because he hasn't really put up a ton this season. Now, in order for him to do that, he had to make 9 of 11 threes. So I don't want to get crazy with this Fred VanVleet thing. 6,200 is a good price to play against Atlanta. You could just look at it from that angle if you want to. That's fine with me. If any of these guys were out, I would be jumping on the Amen Thompson bandwagon, who, by the way, has put up, he put up 51 the other night, even with everybody back in 34 minutes. Only 28 the other night against Denver, but we know he has a ceiling. I don't think we can do it tonight, but you guys know my love for Amen Thompson as a basketball player, so that's why I mention it. All right, moving over. Going to talk about Memphis and Utah. All right. So Memphis is going to look like, I mean, Utah's been, I believe they've been the fastest pace. We'll double check my little thing. Yep. They've been the fastest over their last 10 games, and they're bad. You got to worry about a blowout even without Ja. Like it's a 10 and a half point game. But I think this could easily get ugly. And yeah, very, very hard. Maybe the most important team to figure out. I'm putting Pippen as a clear guy. We want to, have whatever the exposure is, we're going to have plenty of it, even at 5K. And I wonder if they start him tonight, because they haven't. They did last time, I believe, but they've gone back and forth a little bit with the Kennard thing. I think off the bench at lower ownership would be kind of fun. Jaren Jackson Jr. is not a guy I love to play as chalk just because the nature of his game. So I would probably be underweight this Jaren Jackson Jr. play. But I do think that we got to consider all of Memphis here. I think the guy for me might be actually, it's a lot to pay for him, but I think taking some shots on Desmond Bane is not totally unreasonable. And I think Santi Aldama is maybe the cheaper version of the Jackson play. So I'm interested in a lot from Memphis, and I just think it's a matter of getting it right. As of right now, I have it ranked Pippen. I think Bane, then Jackson, then Williams. Oh, Williams, I forgot to mention before. Williams should come off the bench again. I think the minutes are. I feel like the projection might be aggressive on him in this morning. Like 21 is not that bad, not that crazy. It's just we don't have it. I guess Williams is fine. It's just we haven't really seen it lately from him, and Jalen Wells I think will still get the start. Doesn't mean we won't see plenty of him. But I just think it's kind of tricky. They still have bodies there in Memphis, even without, they are missing some, but they've still got 11 guys available to play. And really curious to see what they actually run out there tonight. Again, the game starts late, so we're not going to know. In general, I want to bump these guys up. I just bumped Pippen down a tiny bit just to start just because I had to make 2 changes. All right. Walker Kessler, definitely interesting against fairly smallish front line, but I still feel very nervous playing Kessler. I feel like he gets over projected a lot. The minutes are always right there around 30. We're projecting him at 40 fantasy points tonight. Okay, well, how many times is he at 40? At least at 41. He hasn't at 40 in 6 games. It's a good matchup, I think, but I don't know about this one. Kessler, Keontae George, I have question marks about both. Utah has 500 guys available and nothing to play for. Keontae George, Isaiah Collier, and Sexton are all kind of interesting, but the fact that they all are makes them a little less interesting. So Utah's the range of outcomes for all these guys is so wide, with the potential exception of Keontae George, and none of it is all that exciting. So Utah gets a big question mark for me. I know I'm going to probably end up with some things here. I just don't know what that's going to be yet. And for large field stuff, if you're going to consider these guys, if Clarkson's a go. Now, if Clarkson's not a go, that's going to make these guys look even better. If Clarkson is a go, I think you throw him into the mix too. It's just tough with Utah. Really, really tough. I hate when they're on the big slates, because they always look great, and it's really, really hard to find who it's going to be on a given night. All right. Let me make sure I got something right here. Oh, that's wild. Tatum didn't get injured. When did he get injured? With like a minute left? Tatum played like 36 minutes last night, didn't he? I don't know. But that's cool, Mark. I'm happy you did. Yeah, Watson, Jordan was the chalk, but Watson turned out to be a great play. All right, let's move over to Cleveland and Portland. Let me just double check the spread on this one, because I know we're missing some pieces, but I'm curious because I really think Portland is interesting in this game if Cleveland hadn't just gone through their losing streak. Yeah, it's just 6.5. Okay, they brought it down. So no Donovan Mitchell, obviously, and no questionables. I thought there'd be somebody. They really have little to play for. I'm interested to see what happens here, because what I like about this late game, we can always make swaps, whatever. I do like Ty Jerome with no Mitchell. I do like Evan Mobley. I do like Darius Garland, and they're two that I'm gonna have to probably make sure I get a healthy over the field exposure on, and I can always swap things off later. But I do think it's a good spot for all these guys, and I would even throw Jared Allen in this matchup into the mix. Dean Wade will work because it's a late game. He should start. It's not a guy we want to play on big slates, even as a starter. I mean, we see 14 and 7 his last two. Just go through his game log and you can sort of understand why. Now, obviously, some of those games are different, but it's not like he has to get to 20 fantasy points or anywhere near it. Struss. So all of Cleveland is definitely heavily in play. It's just a matter of how we want to attack it as of right now. For me, I think this Garland projection is way too low, or not projections way too low. I think you got to take shots on him with Donovan Mitchell out. Now, he can be a little bit, he gets plenty of assists too, but can occasionally be scoring reliant. Like, it'd be more interesting if you had Ty Jerome out also, because then you'd really have it open, but you just don't. So, Garland, maybe I'll go a little bit higher on his projection. In fact, I'm going to do that right now. It feels a little like we can get more out of him tonight. Maybe make it 42 just to make it not too crazy. And Mobley, I think, is another one that I have a lot of interest in. So I think Cleveland, we're going to get some stuff here. Jerome. So I have Jerome, Mobley, and Garland as my favorites, but I'm probably going to end up with some Struss or Dean Wade. Again, it's all going to depend on what other value we hear about. Let me just see real quick. I'm just making made little notes here. Because Dean Wade is not a play that people are going to play, but you can use him as a placeholder, especially if you're playing more from the late games, and that's sort of the way that I would want to deploy him. I don't love playing Dean Wade on big slates. It's not the most fun thing in the world to do. All right, we've got Banton questionable, Grant doubtful, Ayton out, obviously, Robert Williams still out. And actually, to be honest, this is a little bit healthier than they've been. Now, how good is Deni Avdija? Man, that guy, I just think he's a really good basketball player. It's not that his usage has been out of control. He's put up 69, 64, and 2 out of his last 3. Only had 40 against Boston. He's human. And he's still an affordable price, and he's not getting a ton of love here. Now, I think he's interesting, and I think that Scoot's interesting, but I think I would go Avdija over Scoot. Avdija, but my note is Avdija or Scoot initially. I mean, again, I might end up with both of them. Avdija or Scoot, maybe, or I think you could throw Simons and Sharp into it. It's kind of hard. It's like feels a little hot handy a lot for Portland, with the exception of they do run. They run things through all of these guys just at different times. And Shaedon Sharp has been really, really good, and the prices reflects it. He's been terrific lately. Scoot, you're going to have some hit and miss games. I think the projection might be a little bit aggressive on him. Avdija, Scoot, or let me just make my notes, or Simons or Sharp. I just want to make sure I want to prioritize a little bit of these later games. Avdija is my favorite of the bunch that I just mentioned, and I think Clingan, I guess, deserves a look against a team that plays with that many bigs. Maybe you get more minutes out of him tonight. Certainly consideration. Maybe that's all he is, but I do think there's just too many wings here. We got Kamara also, who I like. I like the future of what's happening in Portland. I think they've got a lot of good young talent, and they've really played pretty good basketball after the start of the season. And maybe Kamara, this is a guy who never gets played. Maybe we throw Kamara into the mix. I don't know. Look, we've had these guys in and out, and still it seems like Kamara always puts up 42, 34, 23, 44 his last 4 games. He's got some upside, and Cleveland plays fast. So I don't think we should just be throwing him out. Oh, Tatum got hurt late in the third quarter. Bet he misses a few weeks. I bet you he doesn't. I'd be really surprised if Tatum missed. He's got to make sure he plays 65 to get the All-NBA team stuff. So I don't think he's going to do that. Those guys care too much about those things. So even if he checked in for a few minutes, I think he's going to be first team All-NBA. I don't think he will. I don't know how many games he's at, actually. Maybe he's already at 65. If he is, then maybe he does sit out a few weeks. All right, OKC, we have Chet questionable. We have Jalen Williams questionable, who I believe was doubtful at one point yesterday, but now is officially questionable. We have, what is going on here with the, I feel like I'm missing a part of my screen or something. What is happening? Let me just see something really quick. Oh, well, I was like, where is Shea? That was confusing me. Oh, there. Sorry, that's why I got lost in them. All right. Shea, just what is it? 60 straight games with 20 points. Unbelievable how good this guy has been. Great matchup. And you Sacramento on a back-to-back. I think they're going to be sitting. It's weird though, because they keep doing this where they have sit people, and I'm like, these guys need freaking wins unless they're like quietly sub-tank. I don't know what the hell they're doing in Sacramento, but anyway. A lot of injury news, really hard to do anything without any of it. Chet as a tournament play, absolutely would consider that. Hartenstein, I'd consider that. I consider all these guys. I'd like to know about Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren. I think that makes Shea, Hartenstein, and probably Cason Wallace or Isaiah Joe or Aaron Wiggins. There would be something to do without the Holmgren and Jalen Williams. I think that it just might solidify that the best pay up could be Shea on this slate. He just is like, you feel safe with him and you feel like there's upside, especially in this matchup against Sacramento. Wow, so they're 10-point favorites in Sacramento. We have Sabonis, Monk, questionable. Now, if they're both out, Levine was just awful last night, like just absolutely horrendous. Did play 36 minutes, which is not great either. DeRozan, old man DeRozan, who I love, played 38. He plays minutes though. He can do that. Even on back-to-backs, you see him play a lot of minutes. So I guess the question would be, what would happen if we lost Sabonis and Monk? I think that obviously Levine, DeRozan, maybe to some extent Murray, but I guess LaRavia would probably be in line for some run as well. And Keon Ellis would become one of the chalk plays with no Monk and Sabonis. Yeah, I think he would be. I think it would be Keon Ellis because he would start instead of Monk, and I probably would be one of the better values. But a lot to wait on. So we're going to bump up the late games. We're going to try to make sure we have spots for them. And then I'm going to try and go through, just to reiterate, Payne, Wiggins, Pippen as sort of like a general cash game and potentially even tournament core. Interested in pieces from Cleveland, favorite at the moment being Jerome. Interested in pieces from Portland, favorite at the moment being Avdia. Memphis, Utah, Cleveland. I already mentioned Cleveland. Memphis and Utah would be the other teams that I'm sort of targeting, and interested in potentially some stuff from obviously some other stuff other than Payne from the Knicks and from Miami, San Antonio, and Orlando. So a lot to monitor, a lot to figure out early in the day. But this is sort of what SaberSim gave us early in the day in terms of exposures. You can see it's a lot of the things that we sort of talked about. And I am going to try to figure the slate out better, wait for some news, have my updates ready just before we go live at 6. Then I will go into the premium, and then I will finish building my hand builds myself. And I want to wish everyone a great deal of luck today. Again, check out the packages. They're awesome. It's an incredible value, even though it is a little bit pricey. But just all of SaberSim stuff and pay dirts alone, not to mention what the TrueDFS team brings, I think is pretty interesting. So I would hope that you guys would take a look. Butler going back to Miami. It's a good point, Mark, that I didn't touch on. I'm not sure what I want to do with that one. If now, obviously, we know that if Curry's out, we can play some Butler. It's not like they made Butler cheap either. Like, he's 8,700. He could have a good game theoretically and not like fully get there. And it's not like they did him. Well, they kind of did. It's a mixed bag. He's been really good. All right, we'll throw that one on the board. We'll throw the Jimmy Butler revenge on the board. I think it's interesting. Again, it's a strange situation with what happened with them. A lot of it's on him, if you ask me. Thanks, Jack. Yeah, it's awesome stuff. And again, we do have a trial going, so you can check it out for a few days. We do have the MLB on Thursday, so now's a good time to get in because we will have a lot of content for that. And with that, I leave you guys. Good luck today, and I'll see you live at 6 Eastern.